All right, everybody, we are live. It is the Working Fans Podcast with the man they call Dave. And today we got a special show. We got the guys here, Anthony and Carl from the A2theK wrestling show. You can catch them on YouTube, and they're also on Pro Wrestling TV right now and a bunch of other platforms. Guys, how are you?
Oh, great, man. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Sorry, we're going to work on this not talking over each other bit as well.
I mean, for anyone who watches or listens to the show, you're probably used to us talking over each other anyway, but, we'll try our best.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Actually, that's something I was interested in, too, is because I have other people I work with sometimes on certain interviews and stuff, but we do it all through the studio and everybody's remote. You guys work right next to each other all the time. What are some pros and cons to that?
I mean, well, to be fair, so we kind of started in as a lockdown podcast as well, didn't we? So we just started over Anchor initially, and then kind of switched over to Zoom and then Skype and stuff. Anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, just trying to find the best thing to do remotely.
Yeah. And I think it was only kind of around when we got the started working with Pro Wrestling TV, we were like, okay, now we need to try and look a little bit more professional here, kind of thing. So we were like, maybe we should meet in person. We can do that now. There's no lockdowns and restrictions and.
Yeah, so it's only it's really since Pro Wrestling TV that we've done it like this. I think I don't know that because we were friends growing up as well, so there's that benefit of just literally being able to see each other is pretty awesome. We can actually have a drink together. So a lot of the time we'll have like a beer or a whiskey or something on the show. Or today we're sporting water, which is lovely.
Yeah, we thought it'd be better if you could understand.
But in a technical sense, I think honestly, just processing power is much in terms of editing and rendering the videos. It's much easier that we've just done one recording on one machine. We don't have to sort of bring that together quite the same way. So it makes the editing time a lot easier, which is actually his job. So it's fine.
Well, so I'll ask. We talked about this before we went on, but the question that's the go-to for any interview. You guys, I know you guys were fans. We just but what? What got you, what was your fandom? Who were you into? And then, what eventually made you decide to do a podcast?
Shall I start?
I'll let you start because yours starts a lot earlier.
Yeah, so I first got into wrestling probably around about 91, 92 when I was 3 or 4 years old. So it was just, my dad, my brother used to watch it. So obviously me kind of growing up and seeing it on TV, I was kind of hooked from a super, early age. But for me, I kind of gravitated more towards Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, technical wrestling, the Intercontinental title, Roddy Piper, those kind of guys were what really kind of, got my interest in the business really. And then I've just kind of followed it all the way through. I think there's lulls in wrestling, isn't there? So I think as I've kind of got older and things like that, there's been times where, other than the Rumble or WrestleMania and stuff like that, I'll kind of not really keep up to it, with it as much. But for me, it was probably 92. You were a little bit later.
Well, quite a bit later, to be honest. I sort of joined in the Attitude Era, I suppose. So I imagine you had the same thing over in the States where there was a point in the Attitude Era when it was just wrestling was just everywhere. It was at a fever pitch. So every teenager just loved wrestling, and it was a similar thing. I started high school, met Carl, and we quickly became friends. And literally everyone was massively into wrestling. So I was like, well, I'll have to check this out. And strangely, I don't think there's many people, certainly from our high school, who are still wrestling fans. But just something about the sort of storytelling and that sort of theatrics about it sort of kept me sort of interested. Because again, Attitude Era was just, there's probably a lot of bits that we all just ignore that were probably a bit rubbish, but there's just so many great wrestlers come from the Attitude Era and so many great moments come from the Attitude Era that, I don't know, that's just what, I mean, straight away, Undertaker, I've mentioned a few times, is my favorite. And again, just we had the Undertaker and then the American Badass and all of that for me was just awesome. So.
Yeah, and I think in terms of kind of starting the podcast, that was kind of your idea, wasn't it? Because essentially, I mentioned the lulls in pro wrestling and kind of, super into it around Rumble and Mania, and then sometimes it kind of fizzles out. But the Rumble is something that me and Anthony have always loved, and when we can, we've always met up once a year and watch the Rumble and really kind of got into that. And obviously, it was 2020 watching the Rumble, and you were kind of Yeah, well, maybe we should just
It's like almost like one of them barroom conversations. We should start a podcast.
Yeah, you're the greatest idea that everyone ever had. And but like for me, I never really like listened to podcasts or anything like that. You know, I'd listen to like the Ricky Gervais podcast and stuff, but that was kind of all I'd really you know listened to. But you were.
I was very much the podcast guy. I was listening to like weird ones as well. Like I don't know why I mentioned it, but I'll mention it anyway. There's one that's called Welcome to Night Vale, which is it's sort of a radio show set in a fictional world. So there's like a lot of like mad sci-fi stuff happening in that world that the news reporters reporting on. So I was always listening to like different podcasts and like loads of mad things like that. So yeah, I was always looking for something new and fun. And the suggestion sort of come from me that, well, we like talking about wrestling. Let's put it out there and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely the way. It's funny, Carl, when you talked about with the Brett and the Perfect Era, we're actually doing a new segment soon, just breaking down like favorite years in pro wrestling. And when I started a little earlier, I'm a little older. I started like 84 was my year. But when I thought about it, like I started to get kind of tired for a little bit. 91 is what brought me back. And it was the Bret Harts and the Mr. Perfects. And then the following year with Brett and Bulldog. And this Brett kind of became my guy actually with that. So it's funny to hear you say that. Like 91 is going to be a year, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, you mentioned Bulldog as well. Like obviously for us being Brits, like obviously SummerSlam, Davey and Brett and stuff as well. And that was just a huge talking point in my house. Like, you know, my dad was a massive Bulldog fan, hated Brett. My sister, you know, had a bit of a crush on Brett, and so it was like, no, she was cheering him on, and I was kind of in the middle because I loved Davey because he was British, but you know, Brett was my favorite, so it was it was a great time.
That's awesome. Now we got a question in the comments here because one of my questions was going to be what some of your prep work was, and then this is asking what's your process for editing like too. So maybe we'll just tackle both of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've streamlined it a lot over time, haven't we? So it used to be. Well, I mean, we started off as a podcast on Anchor.
Yeah, so you'll notice, originally we started out audio only, so we used a bit of kit called Audacity just to sort of cut out bits that weren't working and, so, you know, try and make it not 4 hours long. And then as we moved into the video side of things, again, we were using, you'll see from our earlier stuff, there's little watermarks on there. We were using something called Cyberlink at the time, and we've just moved around so much to try and find the best bit of kit to use, really. But at the minute, it's we've got obviously the camera and the mic set up in a single room, front of the green screen, and
the studio,
studio, and so we could just sort of record sort of pretty much live like this, and then with minimal editing, as long as we don't sort of go off on a tangent, we can pretty much.
To be fair, we've kind of got it down now. So obviously we use OBS as well as kind of our platform of choice to record now as well. But really, you know, I don't know why we don't just do a live stream of it. To be fair, because we do it's just like a one take thing, isn't it? We just try and keep ourselves from rambling for forever. But it's only whenever we if we've like had a guest, like, so I mean, well, so for interviews we still use like Zoom and stuff.
We still can.
So they're a little bit more intensive in terms.
Well, I imagine that's correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously the kit you're using, you can interview straight into it, can't you? Yeah. So you can do your interviews live as well.
Yeah, StreamYard is great for that. So anyone tuning in, I'm sure they love this, but whatever. StreamYard, it's like one of those things where like you guys said, I just sent you like a link and you come on and we're doing it live, or you can just set it up to record. My buddy in the comments, that's producer Joe, he's on vacation, so he wanted to send that stuff in. But he does all the editing and stuff too. Like I don't really do any of that, but even for a novice, like StreamYard's just that easy to use. So
nice.
Yeah,
so I recommend it.
I know we're going into a bit more of a background scenes kind of stuff here, but it does seem like a really good bit of kit. That, to be fair,
it is, and that's So just and we talked about it, I've had guys on here we haven't had we're not name dropping, but DD people. We've had Stevie Ray, we had Al Snow, I had Rip Rogers. Some of these guys that are older too that have been around, and it's all worked every time. Every once in a while, you might run into someone who has an issue on their side, but I think that's probably with anybody, anything, right? Yeah, well, so actually, we brought it a couple times. I'm curious now, how did Pro Wrestling TV come about, and what's that been like?
It was just a really interesting one, really. I think because we'd and even surprising to us, I suppose, we've built up quite a back library of guests now out of nowhere in the last 3 years. So
yeah, you made like a banner for us the other week, and
yeah, it was weird seeing
a lot more than we remember
actually how many people we've had on the show, and I think it was a time when Pro Wrestling TV are obviously looking to expand, their offering, if you will. So they've got,
they've got a fantastic sort of library of like indie wrestling content. They had like local to us, TNT Pro Wrestling up in the north of England. They had was it New South? They've got AAA. So they had like loads of different wrestling content, and I think, like as you say, they were looking to throw a bit more like talk show type content out there.
Yeah,
and again, obviously, I'll not know what's in their minds, but I suppose the attractive thing was having that set of interviews they could sort of just put up straight away and go, well, there's some content there.
I think it was important, as well as obviously the weekly stuff that we put out, is having like that rewatch factor, or like stuff that it doesn't age, like an interview necessarily. You can go in and at any point it doesn't have to be super topical. So I think it was just that, in kind of conjunction with, as Anthony said, they just brought on TNT, which is a local promotion as well. So like around the corner from us. So it was just kind of like,
I think it was a good
thing at the time, wasn't it?
What I was wondering too was, I saw when I was looking up a YouTube channel, one of the segments you have, I don't know if you guys still do it. It's like your top 10 and your bottom 10 of the week. Like we have a thing we call like the 5-3-1, and it was like our top 5 segment, and we break it down to 3 and then a 1. And usually we just pick, for us, it could be something like a topic like top 5 heels of the 80s, or, just something, anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the top 10 and bottom 10, it's about, if I read it right, it's the bottom 10 of the week, top 10 of the week. So this is more like a topical thing, or how does that work?
It's different kind of topics.
We kind of toy with that a little bit. Like we have typically each week we'll talk about like the news or whichever for that week, and then we'll try and put something a bit different in there. So we've done a few top 10s and a few bottom 10s, or I think maybe worst 10s we've made names sometimes.
I think we just called it 10, and then depending on the talk, the 10 worst.
It's not as organized as you might think. We're just like, well, what do we want to sort of list off? What do we want to talk about? So we've done quite recently was 10 best wrestling video games.
Yeah.
Obviously purely based on our childhood, but just as we're sort of thinking of things that other sort of fans of our generation might be discussing, we sort of try and put that into a top 10. So that's sort of, we kind of toy around with the content of that, I suppose, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just to give a mention to your guys' topic as well. Obviously, I've listened to a couple of shows. I think it's really cool the way you take 5 and then you kind of like an elimination almost. So we've got to get rid of 2. We've got to get rid of 2, and you get to the one that way. Whereas we just go, here's our list, and we'll put it in an order, kind of thing. There's no debate. It's like,
well, I mean, there's some level of debate over the order before we put it out there, but. I do like the elimination style of it. Not that we're going to steal it or anything. But...
No, it's fine. What's funny is this. We joke about that.
Next week, 10-5-1.
No, but like we do the same thing though. Like in terms of topics, like we'll go, all right, what do you want to do this week? It's not like it's like some big chalkboard in the back, or like, all right, it's like, nah, what do you got?
We've always done the news. We used to do every week as well. We did This Week in Wrestling, and it was just giving our take and stuff on things. And to be fair, I think it felt a bit forced as well.
Yeah, we didn't want to make it like a chore.
Yeah, it was like, have you watched this yet? I've not, because we've got busy lives and stuff. We've got kids and things as well. It's trying to fit. There's a lot of TV to watch now, and it's like
there's so much and it's all brilliant content, but there's so much content. Like, and this is no disrespect to NXT, but most weeks I was not getting to NXT.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, so we get to it and go, I was NXT this week, and like, well, neither of us saw it.
So it's like, obviously, we put our show out on a Wednesday, and it's like just before AEW. So by the time we've put it out, then we're already a week behind on AEW and things like that. And it's like, we're just giving our thoughts. People have already seen it. So we decided to move away from that a bit. I think if we did it every day in like a live stream and stuff, then it'd be perfect. But
we mentioned slightly off the air, it'd be lovely to do this as a day job. And if it was a day job, we'd probably be putting content out every day and talking about each show, as you say. But like at the minute, that's why we like doing things like the top 10s, or we've done one recently called Get the F Out, which we're talking about like our wrestling pet peeves. So just things like that. That sort of hopefully it's fun for the listeners, but it's fun for us as well to keep it interesting. You know.
Yeah. Here's a question here. Do you guys ever worry about running out of things to talk about?
All the time, constantly.
It's funny because so I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nerd, so I've got everything kind of mapped out on a spreadsheet in terms of here's potential topics we could talk about and all this kind of stuff. But that's kind of running a bit thin lately, especially since we dropped This Week in Wrestling, because we still like to do 3 segments a week, don't we? So we have the news, and then we like to kind of do 2 additional ones. So luckily we found most of the pay-per-view or the premium live event calendar keeps us busy often enough for the
you do like a prediction series on Instagram. So we have we obviously give our predictions on the show, but we tie that into our Instagram, so our Instagram followers can vote at it as well. So
and we've been lucky with guests. So I think
exactly.
If all that dries up, then we're probably going to show ourselves if we can.
But like things like the top 10s, for instance, and you see a lot of like the massive channels. They do a similar thing, like the likes of Cultaholic or What Culture or Wrestle Talk. They all do their top 10s, and we'll probably end up in a similar boat to them, where you go, well, we've already done it, so we're going to do it again, or something like that. Like, has anything changed since we last did it, or something like that? But we don't want to get to a point where we're just doing like top 10s for top 10's sake, I suppose.
Our top 10 episodes.
Right.
That's another one.
I have to say, one of the vibes I got too from you guys too is I feel like, especially some of the like you are. I think you made a joke about it the other day. One of you guys did online where it was like Triple H, like when he first take over, the savior of our wrestling. Then Triple H, after like one episode of Monday Night Raw, like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's out of touch. He's in over his head. It's I don't know. It's you can call it tribalism, I guess. Like, because I when I grew up, it was I liked WWF, I liked WCW. Even before that, I remember other promotions, and like as a kid, like especially being older, like if I found a wrestling promotion like on our cable, I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" I was just excited to see wrestling, and this whole era, I don't know, like of like we just have to be on a team or hate things. It's very fascinating to me. I don't like it, but it's very fascinating one way too, because like to me, it's like if I break down like for my love of wrestling. Weekly, I mean, about you guys, I like to watch Dynamite. I like the fast pace of the show. But if you ask me, like some of my favorite acts in pro wrestling, like the Bloodline is one of my favorite acts in pro wrestling. So it's just I don't know. Like I don't have a. What are you guys' feelings on tribalism? I guess is my point. And what do you think about the current fan base and everything?
Like it might come across like because we'll often talk on the show, and I think everyone does it a little bit when you get a bit impassioned about a particular topic. Like I've mentioned a few things, and I've probably gone off on a bit of a rant about a few things, and it may sound like, oh, I prefer AEW or I prefer this, but genuinely, like you say, wrestling, love wrestling. Right. So like I think there was for a very long time we were enjoying Dynamite much more than WWE. Yeah. But then, as you say, you get acts like what Sami Zayn and the Bloodline are doing at the minute is fantastic, and for me, I think the likes of Twitter and even Reddit to some degree, the horrible places for that kind of thing of like, you have to be Team AEW or Team WWE, and like the comments are just so boring as well. You get so many. It's like, oh, AEW is just WCW. It's like,
yeah,
okay. Do you remember? Like people just remember WCW like falling off. They don't remember how awesome it was, or the NWO, or how they very nearly might even cause some controversy, but how they were close to beating them at one point. WCW is it's not a shame to be compared to WCW. Like, all right, it didn't work out in the long run, but it's mad to me it's a negative comparison to say they like WCW. WCW is awesome. I used to watch it.
It's bizarre, I think, is my kind of take on it, because I don't see how you can be so attached to a single promotion, if that makes sense. If you're a wrestling fan, there's going to be elements of wrestling that you like, whether it's, as you said, whether it's great matches or whether it's the storylines or the characters, and across all the promotions there's all of that. So there's got to be something which appeals to you in a certain promotion. It's bizarre to me for someone to be like, I hate AEW, I'm a WWE guy. It's like it's got to be like, how can you not love the Acclaimed? Like everyone loves the Acclaimed.
Everybody loves the Acclaimed.
You can't be like that. So yeah, it's crazy.
But like, look at Cody Rhodes as a prime example of this. Like, so many people they hated AEW and everything AEW did. The minute Cody went to WWE, he was amazing. Cody's fantastic, the best. Yeah. They done well to get him. It's like, so why weren't you watching AEW for Cody if you loved him so much? That's the mentality I just can't get my head around when people are so tribalist about it. You go, well, you obviously liked Cody. You're saying you like Cody now, so
right.
there was a reason to watch AEW.
It's
I
like
don't
this
understand
kind
why you don't.
It's like this kind of expectation economy. It's like they're booking the show just for me. If I don't like every aspect of it, they've failed. And it's like
that's kind of what that post about the Triple H post was about. Really,
Yeah.
is that like it's that thing? Is like it didn't cater exactly to what I wanted,
Right.
so he's now failing. And
exactly. It's like one choice that was made, and now suddenly, Triple H has dropped the ball. It's like,
Oh yeah, like to your point too. Like in WCW is a great example, but like you look at like Impact Wrestling and stuff like that, and yeah, they've had some bad booking things over the years, but you still had a company at one point that had Sting, Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett, Booker T, all at the same time. And then even look at NXT, which you brought up, which I'm not a huge fan of NXT right now, but that doesn't take away from at one point there was a takeover after takeover. It was just an amazing event. So it's really it's I always never understood paintbrushing like this one thing. Oh, this is bad and it's always been bad. It's like, probably not.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think if you wanted to critique anything, you can always watch an episode of Dynamite or Raw or any of them and go, that was rubbish, didn't like that, etc. Like and you'll never agree. Like Carl, for some reason, is a big fan of Austin Theory. I don't know why, but he is. Good. So I was happy about this week. Carl wasn't.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny. So I'll just throw my opinion. Austin Theory, personally, like I think he's got a good look. I always thought he could be somebody like in the ring, but like the way he's just been like booked, or even just the way he's living, I don't know. I didn't want him with the Money in the Bank anymore. So like when he lost it, I was like, all right, whatever. We got out of this. Let's see. Maybe maybe we could do something else with him now and move on to the next one. I guess.
Interestingly, that's going to be a topic we're talking about tonight on our show. Is has the Money in the Bank run its course now? Like, are they just doing it for doing its sake? We're like, how many years? 12 years, 17 years, something of the Money in the Bank. And it's like,
because one thing we've always we haven't ever sat and talked about it properly, but I'd be interested in how you feel about it as well. Is we always thought Money in the Bank was better as a match at WrestleMania than its own pay-per-view, because now you have to have one every year, whether you need one or not. Whereas when it was a match type, you could use it correctly, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was actually just having a conversation with this off the podcast with someone, and it's interesting because in a bigger landscape, a bigger scheme of things too, I don't like the fact that we have to have an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I don't like that we have to have, let's just build to the matches. You can have your special events, and then when the matches make sense, we'll do it. Like, I'm excited that we're doing War Games this year just because I'm just kind of so done with the Survivor Series concept. But when I don't want to be announced ahead of time that we're doing War Games. Like, just build up to it. And, I think they need to do a better job of picking and having a plan with some of these Money in the Bank competitors. That being said, I did like it better when it was part of WrestleMania because I also think it added something to WrestleMania too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. One thing that, like, while we mentioned about like having a plan, not so much with Austin Theory, but the year before with Otis.
Oh yeah,
that felt like a plan, and for some, like, all they had to do, and so many people. This isn't even a new idea. So many people have put this out on social media. All they had to do was have him cash in for the tag titles. Then Heavy Machinery would get their shot at being champs. And you go, well, that's how you execute it. You don't have to put Otis in the main title scene, which they obviously didn't want to do. And instead, we end up with a courtroom scene with John Mayfield as the judge for some reason. Yeah, the ending's there. Just do it.
And Miz had been like losing every week, and so when he finally, when he got the title too, it was kind of like it did. Yeah, they have not done the Money in the Bank a good service the last few years. Now that being said, like if Roman continues to hold on to it, and now that he has both titles, if you pick the right guy, you could. But I don't know. I got this theory. So since we're just talking wrestling a little bit here now, and it's kind of fun. I'm curious what you guys think, like with Roman in particular. So I think Roman, they want to do The Rock. Obviously, I think that's what they want to do, whether they can or not. I had this theory that I thought to be interesting because I had a person come to me recently who's just started getting into wrestling again. And he's quoting the Uzi stuff and saying, so it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of taking off, right? He's getting this. And he's like, but he's saying like a lot of things like, he's like, oh, they're gonna get the belt off this guy ever? Like, you don't like, oh no, he's a heel. Like, this is perfect. This is what they want, right? But so I told him like this opinion I had that like if they can do The Rock, they will. I said, but I'm wondering, Cody Rhodes comes back, wins the Rumble, and maybe it's even on night 2. Maybe you do Rock night 1, and Cody has a match or do something, and then you have the guy who's basically beaten Rock. He's beaten Cena. He's beaten Goldberg. He's beaten everybody, going on close to 3 years at this point. And he takes on the guy who left because he wasn't good enough, comes back and wins the title that his father could never win, who was a legend. I'm like, to me, like that story writes itself. Like I don't know whether you're a Cody fan or not. I'm like, what? That seems like we're something we could go. But I'm just curious what you guys think, or you have any ideas? Or
I mean, I don't think I'll ever be as big a fan of Cody as Cody. But honestly, like whether you like Cody or not, the story is just perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you say, it needs to be told. That story needs to happen.
For me, that is the ultimate story. The I guess where I get concerned is what happens after that. Because essentially, this is the big thing. He's going to do what his dad never did. He's going to do it, and say for argument's sake, he is the one to dethrone Roman. He gets both belts, and then Roman, has a little bit of a break for a bit. I don't know where he goes from there. That is anything anywhere near as compelling.
Well, this is going to be the trouble with, I think, anyone who dethrones Roman. It's been, whether you hate him or love him, it's been a hell of a run. So, like, no matter what, you're kind of like setting anyone up for like a less notable run, aren't you? Really?
Yeah. I do disagree with the decision to give them both belts. To be fair, I do think there's got to have been a way. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm a massive Drew mark. So Clash of the Castle seemed like the perfect opportunity.
Oh yeah,
something where he got one of the belts off him at least, or something.
We were kind of waiting for him to win, and then there'd be some sort of like Paul Heyman-esque promo where he's like, "What? No, you didn't win both belts." Like some sort of technicality. That's what we were expecting at Clash at the Castle, to be honest.
We certainly weren't expecting Tyson Fury to sing with him at the end.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get you guys out of here, but I was a big fan of Drew going into that too. I thought the story wrote itself, and then I don't know, like if everybody's gonna get this or not. I think you guys will, but like I know there's been some people online, but like when they played his old music too, and they had that little video they made for him, like I was such a fan of his old music. I was like, I just thought, oh, this is perfect. We could do this, and they didn't do it. They did not.
Still teased us.
Still hurts.
But for me though, like going back to the Roman thing, I think the match it's a money match for him and The Rock. It doesn't need to have the belts involved. I know that would mean he'd have to have suffered a loss, but who's not? Is anyone realistically going to go? I'm not watching that. It's not even for the belts,
right?
We're still tuning in to see The Rock versus Roman. That's just it's a money match straight away.
Yeah. I think that the big kind of the shame with it all is it seems so telegraphed of like Cody's going to come back at the Rumble, and if they can get The Rock, it is going to be The Rock, and like I'm interested to see whether there's going to be any unexpected surprises along the way.
And to be fair to Triple H, he's pulled off quite a few. I know it's mostly just returns and stuff at this point, but he's pulled off a few surprises so far. So it'd be I'm excited. It's an exciting time for wrestling.
I'm going to throw this one out there. I know we're going to get you out of here, but like, what do you guys think about Bray Wyatt?
I was hyped, so I love all that kind of.
You like a good mystery.
Yeah, I love the kind of unraveling the mysteries and stuff like that. I think the problem is he is rambling rabbit at the minute. He's come back and he's just spoke, and it's pretty much the same promo every week. And obviously we've seen Uncle Howdy, and it's like okay, and now we're starting to see these like little flashes of like behind Alexa Bliss and stuff like that and it's like, oh, could it be Bliss? Could it be Asuka? So I'm still intrigued, but I think it piqued my interest massively. Right. Then we saw him, and then it's just kind of like you need to do something.
Yeah, we need him, like, because you can still keep the mysteries going, but for me, we need him back in the ring. Like, there's only so many promos where he's being cryptic. For me, like he's awesome guy. In terms of creative standpoint, it's always intriguing stuff. And I was super excited for him to be back, so I'm not knocking it. But at the same time, if we don't get him in the ring soon, it's like, what do we?
And it could be amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, no one knows who Uncle Howdy is. I think what intrigued me was when Bray was feuding with himself, where it seemed like he was feuding with, a different personality, and now like they've introduced this Uncle Howdy, and it's like if that's a person, well, I think that might cheapen it a bit.
Yeah, Yeah, because like people were expecting like each of the, because they had, when he first came back, they had all the characters, didn't they? The Rabbit and Huskus, the Big Boy, and all that. And they were like, each one of them is going to be a member of the Wired Six, and I don't even know if that's going to be the case now. It's still very much a mystery. They haven't given us much at all.
Yeah, I agree. Though I think like for me, it peaked at Extreme Rules, and like we found, I did love the chase. I did love, like, I'm not one of those guys who's going to go through all that, but I liked reading about it afterwards and like, oh wow, they did this and all this just to, like, that's very clever, and it was different, and it was so unlike anything WWE was doing, and it was fascinating. And then he got that huge response. And then I saw him come on, and he delivered when he's being himself with the heartfelt, and it's just like, wow, that's so great. But now, like you said, we're a couple weeks into Uncle Howdy, and for me, I'm like, okay, I'm not down on it because we don't know where this is going for sure. But I'm like, all right, I'm kind of pumping the brakes a little bit. Like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. Now I'm kind of like, I'm easing up. Whereas if you asked me after Extreme Rules, I was like, give me all the Bray Wyatt. I'm ready.
Yeah, agreed. I think they just need to do something a bit more, step on that story a little bit more to still have the intrigue. And it can be a longer term story. It's not really going anywhere at the minute, is it?
Well, that's the thing. I'm curious for both of you. Actually, I've not asked you either, Cal. It doesn't look like they're doing the Fiend. Like, it doesn't look like we're going back to that. Like, did either of you miss the Fiend? Because obviously it was such a big character at that point.
I don't know whether he's run his course again, though, as well. With it, I think a lot of limitations came with how spectacular it was. I think when they did burnt face Fiend, that was it was kind of the end personally. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I did not. I don't miss him. I didn't hate the Fiend, but like I think I missed having Bray Wyatt, like, the talks, and like I put this, for me personally, I like just kind of going into the little bit of the supernatural, sprinkling it in. I don't like going all the way in, although I will say the exception was the cinematic match he had with John Cena initially, because for me that was so different. And now we've had so many, but at the time it was so different, and it's what we kind of needed at that point. So I was all for that. But beyond that, for the most part, I like to have a little bit of some feet in reality here. So I liked it when he can talk and he's able to cut these promos because he's such a good talker too. Mm-hmm. But so for me, at this point, no, I don't want the Fiend back, but I am curious to see where this is going.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, guys, one other thing before we get you out of here, I just wanted to ask you. I saw you recently had somebody on, and it's on your Twitter, Top Rope Brewing. I might have got that wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a relationship with this, and is this another project of yours, or how's this work?
So they are, again, they're another sort of local company, if you will. So we first noticed them. They had a convention in England called For the Love of Wrestling, which is, as it sounds, it's a specific wrestling convention. And this company were at the event, and they specialize in, obviously the name would indicate they make their own beer and theme it after different wrestlers. So we had like the Exalted one as a tribute to Brody Lee, and we had like Papa Mango, which is a particular favorite of mine. So that was like a mango flavored beer that was obviously done in homage to Papa Shango and stuff like that. So we were sort of intrigued to try the beers, and we started speaking to them about, well, maybe we could sort of mention them on the show, promote them a little bit. And that's sort of really how that came about. So we just started doing, like, I suppose, a bit of advertising, but we for a few weeks now, we'd been sort of trying a different one of their beers each week, and then sort of giving them a bit of a mention on the show. And they give us a 10% code, so they, anyone who wants to buy, they can get 10% off. And that's, it just sort of happened sort of naturally. Like, we got talking to them at For the Love of Wrestling, and sort of beyond that by email and like.
Awesome. All right, guys. I know you got a show to record tonight, so why don't, before we get out of here, and I'm going to ask you guys to stay on after we're done for a second. I want to ask you something.
Of course.
Why don't you hit anybody with any social media or anything you want to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow us pretty much everywhere at A2theK Wrestling, I should say right there. Yeah. So obviously TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere basically.
Yeah. In terms of the show, YouTube, Pro Wrestling TV, yes. And we say pretty much anywhere you can find your podcast. We try and make sure we're in all the, like, you know, we've got Spotify, Google, Apple. Try and make sure we're on any podcast platform that we're not on. We try and make sure we get ourselves put on there. So pretty much anywhere you can find us in that sense. But in terms of the video show, main ones be Pro Wrestling TV and YouTube.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Anthony Carl, thank you for doing the show, and we definitely
thanks for
have you
having
back
us,
on, man.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thank you.